In episode 10 of Convergence, when did you realise yourself? Embracing versus accepting, and I pissed someone off, and that's okay.
I was planning on no presents for anybody because of all the just life happening at me, and then yesterday I just decided, nope, I'm gonna buy a bunch of things. So I got a bunch of little things for people. But yeah, I'm doing all right. That's the default answer. What's the actual answer? I'm a bit preoccupied by all these things I want to talk to you about.
Okay. We'll take them one at a time.
Yeah.
This is your time.
I've got notes, and let's see where I want to start.
Of course, you've got notes.
At the top of my. Well, yeah, you never told me there was Syracuse rules, and I couldn't prepare, so I prepare. My first note in here is definitely going to need some expansion, but I just wrote, when did you realize yourself?
Ooh,
maybe you have an answer just for that.
Do I now, is that a question in the abstract, as in when did one realize oneself, or are you asking me specifically?
I'm asking you specifically about that kind of abstract thing about yourself.
Oh, so you feel like I've realized myself?
Well, okay, it's not about what I think.
However, the question presupposes a point on the Jeremy Bearimy timeline.
It can be read that way. Because maybe the answer is I don't think I have.
Okay, no, that's fine then.
Yeah.
If and when delete is appropriate, did you? Okay. Let's try a statement here, and let's just put it out and see what happens when I say it.
Great.
I think I realized I am maybe put here to help people walk a path that I am only a few steps ahead of.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm good at throwing back the... I'm good at shouting back, there's an obstacle over here, there's a thing to watch out for here, and I don't want anyone to trip up.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe... I'd like to think that is what I'm maybe here for as I edge into the second half of my life here. I like the idea that's maybe what I do. Because at the moment, I'm working on what was just going to be a statement for a podcast episode. Oh, sorry, a statement for the other show, the Little Daily Show, and has ended up being, I think, maybe a guiding mission for what I do from 2024 onwards, which is the idea of helping creative freelancers ditch the client work and have their own art pay the bills.
Nice. I like that
phrasing that have been rolling around my mental brain. And that feels like a good mission.
It does.
Feels nice,
honorable.
Because I've walked a path. I've walked a version of that path, and I'd like to think maybe I can give it another go. So, reverse it back on yourself. When did you realize yourself, please, Brendan?
Oh well, I my intention, or kind of one of the important parts of that question was the when. I was curious, kind of when you felt like that happened for you, with you, around you.
Recently, as in, I don't know, 10 days ago. If that.
Amazing.
I've had a lot of help from a book which I initially rejected. We may have talked about this before. But it's a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it.
Yeah. And that has been... I've pretty much finished it now. And it's been... Because when I first got the audiobook, I was not in a place to be receptive to it. But there's a crucial idea in there that I think I missed when I was possibly half listening to it. And that is So their whole idea, and it's everything is everything. It is another. How do you make what you want to make out of your life? How do you get that? And their model is you have 2x things which are like linear, and then you have 10x things which are big and exponential, and that's basically the big manifestation stuff, right? It's all, as say, everything is everything, and there are some some big overlaps there. And one of the things that came through is this sort of big idea was that you lack the confidence and the competence to do the thing that is the 10x goal. Because if you didn't, you'd already be doing it. If you had the skills and you had the confidence, you'd already be at that 10x level. And we have to take the phrase 10x with a pinch of salt. The guy's using it, bit trendy, don't love it. And that's partly what I disengage with. And once you just realize that's just his name for the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing as CBM and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just his framing, and it's using a term that is currently on, or was a year ago, on trend. So fine. But yeah, it was that thing of, it's okay that you don't know how to get there yet, because if you did, you'd already be there. And that was a real sort of little eye opener for me. So I think going through that book, I think I had a Sunday, which I told you about, which is probably where I told you about the book, where I seem to have spent most of the day cooking, and I did a big roast and just listened to the book and was pausing in between, noting things down, yeah, I think it really seeped in. So yeah,
that's amazing.
Like a week ago.
So yeah, so recently. I would say, since you did ask, for me, it's pretty similar. It kind of feels like it's happening every day. It's just like every day that I practice awareness or consciousness. And I feel like my path to awakenness, like the seed of it started back in like 2013, when or I guess it's actually 2015, a couple years after some big addiction problems, where I was kind of led to the path of recovery, but I was still pretty hidden to myself at that point. And then there was a lot of self-discovery action taking place after my divorce in 2019, and then that kind of took a dip during the pandemic. But then through from the beginning of 2021 on, my health journey has been a path to self-discovery as well. And because I've been finding out that to heal oneself physically takes more than just trying to heal oneself physically. It also takes healing and growth spiritually and mentally and relationally, and in all aspects of life. You kind of need to rise all the boats for it to really stick and work. Because if you just try to focus on one area, you're still going to be suffering in other areas, and it's not going to feel better. You're just going to tire yourself out, and it won't stick. Because that's what I've found in what I've heard true from other people who have made great strides in health. So yeah, I don't know. I can't remember exactly why I put that question down, but it came to me as like, oh, I gotta ask Mark this.
I appreciate that.
But similar to that, I've been reading the book I've been reading on is still the Mystic Path, the Mystic Path to Cosmic Power by Vernon Howard, as recommended by Unique Hammond, and I came across a description of an aspect of the Mystic Path that included tools with it. It's just inherent in itself, and it's an expansion on the idea of you can't pour from an empty cup. Like that's not where he's coming from with this, but that reminds me so much of that. It's like, okay,
everything is everything.
Yeah, Yeah, and that's something, a starting point that people can relate to. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty cup. That makes a lot of sense. And I like that phrase better than you have to put your own oxygen mask on first. Because, like, I always think about, well, what did people say? How were people thinking about this before airplanes? Because airplanes are like the only place that's an oxygen mask.
True,
I mean,
but
it's not.
yes,
But
but I also think those are maybe, or I interpret them as different things.
oh, do you?
So if I think about pouring from an empty cup, that to me makes me think about being filled up with whether it's love, inspiration, energy, so that you can give that out, versus if someone is in crisis or if someone is in difficulty, if someone is in need, it's a slightly different, I don't know if valence is the right word for it, but yeah, it carries a slightly different meaning for me. It's more like you've got to get your ship right, ship with a P, before you start trying to get someone else's. It's almost the Bible thing of there is a Bible thing about not judge, not lest ye be judged. There's get your something along the lines of getting your own house in order before helping someone else. So it obviously an old thing, but pouring from an empty cup to me feels more about replenishment than it does maybe about repair. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the part in the Mystic Path, he says that we have pools of energy for mental, physical, sexual, emotional, and so on, like different areas of our life. We have different amounts of energy for each of those different types of tasks. And so when one pool is exhausted, you've been working all day at your job and you're mentally exhausted, get up and walk around because you still have physical energy. Or, go find your partner and have some sexual interaction, or, process some emotions. Do something different so that you're using a different pool of energy and you can replenish the area that you've exhausted.
Seems to make sense.
And I thought that was, when I read that, I was just like, man, that's just like a life hack right there. That's like...
It's so often with certain pieces of, or certain aspects of our lives, that it feels like we've got to just push through. Just got to get this done because there's a deadline or there's a whatever. This, as we record now, it is the last Friday before Christmas, and I sort of, I'd really love to be done and have everything packed up so that I haven't got to work until January the 2nd. And that's, not exactly worked out. I've sort of engineered my life so that I don't have to work in the in that period, but hey-ho. And so there's, I think, something there around when you find that moment where you're pushing, it's giving yourself the permission to stop and go and do something else that is, that requires a different amount of energy. To almost like if you go on a long flight with AirPods and you start to hear the beep, 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 beep noise, you have to charge one while you keep the other one in your ear, and you just go back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to the airplanes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Everything leads back to airplanes.
Everything leads back to airplanes. And I have two other little things from the Mystic Path that I thought were worth sharing. Here's a quote. The Mystic Path gently but firmly calls upon us to stop pretending. We must willingly face the crisis of seeing that we are not really happy. We must stick with this shocking fact and try not to evade it. Stick with it. Examine it. Not with fear, but with curiosity. By doing so, we at last solve the great esoteric mystery. Conscious awareness of unhappiness destroys it forever. I'm going to repeat that part. Conscious awareness of unhappiness destroys it forever. Remember, all unhappiness is unconscious. That is, we are unaware of how unhappy we really are. So become more conscious of the way you actually feel. consciousness is happiness.
What that makes me think of is, and I'm going to show my massive ignorance, but Buddhism and also generally the also psychological concept of acceptance, and also the paradoxical theory of change, which is kind of all feels like it's about what we are often unhappy about is, or I think maybe the definition of unhappiness is, well, if you think about, like, people say, are you happy with this? Like, we are usually happy with something. I don't know if there is a universal I am just happy. I think you have to be happy with something, perhaps. And so to be unhappy with something means you're grieving the thing that is not what you want it to be. And so there's an acceptance, or there's a lack of acceptance of the current state of affairs. And so happiness is about being able to be okay with that thing and to be secure enough. And sometimes the word acceptance for me feels a little like resignation. And so a word that came up for me earlier this year when I went to my business hippie commune was embrace. And I really felt that word spoke to me a lot more than accept, because it was much more welcoming. So it's looking at the bits of you that make you unique that sometimes you might look at with judgment, and not merely accept them, but embrace them. Look at situations that aren't as you want them to be, and don't just accept them, but embrace them. And embrace, it's such a loving thing to do. It's a physical act as much as anything else. It's wrapping your arms around it and holding it, and warming it and showing that you love it, and you want to take care of it. That's an embrace. And for me, that was a real moment of going, wow, to feel embraced, to be able to embrace yourself is such to me, a sort of a higher level of acceptance, because it's doing so with love rather than what can sometimes, and maybe it's just semantics, but it's just that thing of, I can accept that versus I embrace that. It's more choiceful.
Yeah.
For me.
I love that. I don't think it's semantics, because I also hear accept and embrace differently. And I love that for you. I love that framing and pathway into it. The way I see accept, a little bit the same and a little bit differently, is, so embrace kind of implies that energy and that action of pulling in, whereas accept is just opening up and allowing it. And so in my view, like, embracing, it's a little bit, you're kind of trying too hard, because if you just accept, the word just here feels so inappropriate, but like, if you accept, like, you allow it, it just is, and you don't have to try. Whereas the embracing, it might be a really good step to get to acceptance, but I think acceptance is actually the ultimate goal, because it just is. You just allow it. You're not rejecting it. You're not pulling it in.
That, I think, maybe why that doesn't resonate as much is because it feels so neutral, and for whatever reason, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think for me, I like a moving towards, or a moving, whatever the whatever the opposite of towards is, away from.
Yeah. I think what I'm learning from things like the Mystic Path is that desire to move towards or away from something is part of the problem. Part of why you can't, not you, Mark, but you as in a general person, why one could not actually achieve true happiness that isn't related to something, like happy about something, but just happy with yourself, happy in existence, comes from the neutrality of it, because there's nothing wrong with the neutrality. There's we can definitely put a negative spin on it, but it's truly beautiful to be completely neutral and happy. IMO.
And this is where words is interesting, because I think about the beauty, and it's fair enough me saying this now because I haven't yet lost anyone in my life that is. I mean, I've lost people and I've grieved and I've really cried over them, but I haven't yet had that pivotal loss. But there is to me, and I'm going to use the wrong words, I think, but a natural beauty to a kind of grief that sort of speaks to, there is a season for those things, and a moment of mourning and a moment of grief that and profound sadness, but also there is a time for that and a place for that and a season for that, and that's the sort of moment you're moving into when there are these complete ruptures, when things are so unexpected and happen. I think that's a different issue, and I can't speak to that, and it wouldn't be right for me to. But when we talk about these, circle of life, ebb and flow of life type things, I wouldn't want to think about being happy at that time or happy with that. But there's definitely a word I don't have in my lexicon, and if it doesn't, it probably does exist in English, but if it doesn't, I'm sure it exists elsewhere, probably in French, of a sort of, of an acceptance, actually, of a, this is a part of life. We are going through the appropriate grieving thing, and it's not happy, but it is natural, for want of a better word. And and so to me, I don't know that happy is a permanent state, and it's not one that I seek. I want to have I want to feel the ocean, but not be buffeted too much by it. I think it's natural to feel the ocean, but to be appropriately stabilized. And that to me isn't necessarily happiness. And it's not, neither is it resilience, but it is, and maybe that is further towards acceptance or even serenity, maybe. I don't know, something.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And this book way earlier covers that kind of, that aspect of it. We're not talking about like a mystic is just giddy, happy, goofy, laughing all the time, and doesn't feel sad when their partner or their master dies. Like, it's just that you still feel all of the emotions, and they all still come, and they're appropriate and everything. But you have this security knowing that this too shall pass, and this is just a part of it. And in a way, I'm happy for experiencing this loss. Like, like that happened with me after the car accident. I had tons of gratitude for, obviously being alive and surviving it, but also getting the experience of it. I'd never had any close to death experience before, and I had one, and wow, that was like life-changing and incredible.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind now is peace. To be at peace with these things. Because again, it's not that war of, and we do it in so much of our everyday lives of just, this should be better, this should be different. And I was editing a podcast episode that sort of talked about this a couple of days ago, and it's that is where that is the root of suffering. It's not the thing itself. It's our pushing against it.
Exactly.
And that is, that's the holy grail, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to just go, okay, this is what's happening then.
That's acceptance.
Yeah.
So here's the other quote I have, and this is it's kind of like a little back and forth between a teacher and an apprentice. There's a question from the student. What is false magic? Which is, the term isn't really important. That was just a phrase used. Looking for quick thrills and passing sensations. That's quick magic or false magic. Arousing from emotions gives the illusion of life, but it soon vanishes, leaving you empty. It is like borrowing money. Sooner or later, you must give it up. And what a dreadful rate of interest. You just can't afford it. Question from the student. I always come back to the question of what should I do to break through? Is there some simple rule to remember? Teacher. Say yes to whatever aids self-discovery. Say no to whatever hinders it.
It's funny that yesterday I was in the process of evaluating a second degree or perhaps a master's in psychology. Because I thought it would help with where I want to go. And it also just brought home to me this continued interest in self-development, and how it's never stopped for me. And I think some people really do sort of reach a time and they go, I'm done.
Yeah.
Ping.
Oh, yes.
I'm baked.
Yes.
And that's fine, because I sort of think some people are. They're just like, I'm like done. I'm good. Not that we're all self-actualized beings, but like I think we've talked before about that. I've had this concept of one of my friends when he started learning the guitar and doing a stand-up course. I'm like, he's completed life, and he's now just doing the DLC to use a gaming thing. Like he's paid his £70 for the game.
Mm-hmm.
He's played the game all the way through, and now he's just doing the extra side quests. And what a great life.
Yeah.
What to be at that point where you're just like, it's all here. Like I've got what I need. I'm good. Now I can just go off and explore and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Oh, it reminds me of those people that they get the secret to financial success early, and they are able to retire at 45, and then you can just live without fear of money. And like, oh man, how nice would that be? I really want to talk to you about Enneagram 3-ness, but I don't have a lot of things to talk about it yet. But I do. That's something I want to discuss with you. I sent you a podcast episode. Did you have a chance to listen to that? No worries. Seems like you've been busy.
People keep sending me things.
Yeah.
People keep trying to fill my life up, with good things, and they're like, "You're interested in this thing. This is an area of study for you. Here you go." And I'm like, "I can't get it all in at the time."
No, there's too many things. Well, there's a little bit of guidance that's not Enneagram related, but provided by the Enneagram godmother, Suzanne Stabile. And it's guidance for the holidays. So it'll be good for you, but not for the listener. They can hold on to it for next year. There's the four mantras of the holidays is what she calls it. Show up, pay attention, tell the truth, don't attach to the results. Mm-hmm.
That last one.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's kind of just good advice for like always interacting with anybody.
Interacting with people. Yeah. I'm lucky. As I get older, I just realize how lucky I am. But there is and I think it's just it's a function of our particular family unit and the way we operate, because we're part of a big extended family. It would be madness for us all, and I think, undesirable for us all to be together because, half my mum's family are in Northern Ireland, and both my parents are from big families, so lots of aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff, and it would be insane to have any kind of thing. So all the nuclear families do their things, and we'll get together usually a couple of weeks beforehand, and we'll have a big party, and that's what we've done this year. But because there's no extended period of stay, there isn't this drama. And I know my family, it can create some drama. We've got it all between us, and there could be a reality TV show about our family, I think, and it would be varied and interesting. But because of that and the way we tend to do our Christmases, there isn't this narrative that we're all bracing for the holidays, and we've got to go back home and deal with your racist uncle and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, don't really have that. The only thing I know is that at some point my mum's gonna make a comment about my weight about 45 minutes before we eat a massive plate of turkey leftovers from the day before. That's the one thing I can be pretty sure of.
And when it goes away, they'll miss it.
Yeah, that hasn't happened the last couple of years. But it's that's fine.
I think you're beautiful, Mark.
Thank you. I think I've got work to do, but that's fine. Both things could be true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that aside, I think it is good for. I mean, it's funny. Okay, so I didn't tell you about this because you've got enough going on in your life. But I thought it was interesting as a microcosm of what you've been experiencing with your lawsuit. Is not the phrase I want to use. Advocacy is not the word I want to use. Mediation is the word I want to use. Mediation. So, back in June, I had someone. I think it's. I will make the observation that this is an Indian gentleman because there are aspects of business that are conducted culturally slightly differently in different areas, and that's just a fact of life. And it becomes, I think, useful context. So there's a chap from India who contacts me, sort of, very one word. Oh, sorry, one sentence, very short sort of questions. I want to start a podcast. What do you charge? And it's like, well, depends on actually what you want and how much help you need and this and the other. And we eventually settle on me delivering him a set of coaching sessions. He's quite adamant that he wants to launch in a couple of weeks, and I'm like, okay, well, let's get the first session set up so you've got, you've got all the technical aspects sorted and you're ready to go and this, that, and the other. Because he doesn't want to necessarily plump for the, I have a deeper set of work that I can do with people, but he's like, no, this is what I want to do. Fine. So first of 3 sessions, he's paid for the 3 in a block. He then goes away, and I think he's supposed to have launched 2 weeks later, and then I hear hide nor hair of him until this Tuesday, which, as we record now, is the Tuesday before Christmas. And it's essentially, can you resend me the podcast resources? To which I reply, whatever do you mean? Here's what I sent you in the last email. Here's a list of of a bunch of stuff. Is that what you were looking for? And, we don't know. That was never suitably resolved. But then, sort of shortly thereafter, it's I'm launching in early January. Let's get on a call this week. That being the tone. Let's get on a call this week. And I'm like, okay. So it's about to be Christmas. It's the Tuesday before Christmas. Let's not do that because I'm going to be breaking up reasonably because it's the holiday period. But mate, I'm happy to chat with you, from the 2nd, and we can book something in. No, that won't work. Has to be the 2nd. Now, bearing in mind, this is the second time he's pulled this, because before he's like, yeah, I'm launching next week. Still hasn't launched. So, and I sort of had to make that point at a later point. It's like,
you've already pushed your deadline back. Yeah.
By like a year.
Oh, wow.
Because I think this is, it's been going on a while. I mean, I think maybe there's, again, cultural thing, but maybe there is a bit of imposter syndrome that he's blustering through and being a little bit, trying to put a brave face on it. And so he says, well, I'm launching in early Jan, so dot, dot, dot. And I leave it for, 12 hours. And then I get a reply, which is, okay, if that's the case, then I want a refund. At which point I say, well, mate, with the best will, well, no, it's like, well, listen, you sort of not give me a lot of notice here. I'm more than happy to deliver, sessions to you to help you get started and grow once you're technically launched. And that, again, that won't work for him, demanding a refund. And so this is yesterday now, Thursday as we speak. And I had to sort of lay the hammer down and just say, my dude, you're being unreasonable. I'm trying to make accommodations. You can't come to me with a couple of, what is effectively 2 days notice and be like, it has to be today or essentially not at all. You can't do that when you don't have to be a Christian to know it's Christmas. And I didn't expect that he would just know that. I said, here it is Christmas and we are breaking for these periods, to make that point, because I don't want to assume. Whatever. And so, and his thing was like, I was asking for help between the holidays, and it's not really that point either. It's the fact that you gave me no. Had you contacted me a week before, I would have been like, yeah, no worries. I can move things around then, but I can't move things around when my other clients, and I had to make this point.
Yeah.
And my other clients have actually given me notice of what they need me to do in the right time. I can't move their stuff around because you've decided on a whim. This is not what I said, but it's obviously on a whim. He's like, no, I'm launching now. Like, so I sort of sent that and I said, I consider the matter closed. To which I got the fun reply, I believe, keep the money, brackets, for work you haven't done, close brackets, I'll find help elsewhere, or something like that. And I've heard nothing from him since. And it was an interesting moment. It was a moment of interesting, like, I was pleased, but also, just slightly rattled, but mainly I'm pleased that I not only stood my ground, but was okay with the fact that meant he was pissed off and was like, it's okay that both things are true. I actually remember this back from... So I had this brief dalliance with a lady earlier in the year, and she'd noticed that while we were talking. I mean, we weren't going out. We weren't anything near exclusive. We had no labels. We were literally we'd been on a date or two, and she'd seen that I'd updated my profile. And I said, well. And she was like, it's okay. And I said, no. It's all right for it not to be okay for you. It's okay for you to be pissed. Like, it's okay for you to be annoyed that I've done that, but it's also okay for me to go, well, I'm, undecided. I'm still looking around, but it's okay if that hurts you. Not it's okay if it hurts you. You know what I mean? It's you're entitled to be angry at me. That's okay. You are entitled to be angry at me, and I'm entitled to to my aspect of this. And that we can meet in the middle or whatever. But it's like, I don't need to apologize, but you also don't need to not be angry at me. It's we're both grown-ups here, and we're both doing our thing and trying to look out for our own happiness. And so to be okay with, I got what I wanted, and also he's really annoyed, is like, that's that is what we have to accept, and be okay. And it was just, I don't know, it felt good to fight my corner and actually, I don't like the word win, but not give in.
Yes.
I should say.
Not lose. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Embrace it.
Yeah, indeed.
That's not easy. And yeah, that's very reminiscent of my struggle as well. And it has not been working out as well for me. But
do you want to talk about it?
There's not really much going on right now. I've got a lawyer and a paralegal working on my team, and they're asking me all sorts of questions, and it's going back and forth between feeling like they're fully behind arguing my case, and then they ask me a question that's like, well, so what did you actually do, or something to that effect? And it's like, oh yeah, it feels so draining. Like, oh man, I need to explain myself and defend myself to my lawyer. Like, oof. But I get it. They need to know thoroughly the case in order to argue it for me. Like, I get it. But when the question comes at me, and there's probably no there's no hidden meaning. There's no deeper truth.
Yeah, they're not trying to catch you out.
They're just trying. Yeah. They're just trying to ask to get the knowledge. But it still hits me, like, because most people would have heard the story and coming from a place of like, okay, well, what did you actually do? And I'm like, I worked. That's what I did. And it hits me at a point where I was transitioning from doing all of the labor myself for 13 years and then try and expand into coaching and training and more things than just the work, and having my laborer do the work and me doing everything else. And I had to go through that transition period of like disconnecting myself from the physical manifestations of progress being made and move over to the fact that like all this other stuff I have been doing, giving all this free information to my clients and making all these documents and all the care I take in the correspondence to make sure it's edited properly and clear and concise and thorough. Like, that's all work too, even if I haven't been giving myself the credit for it. And so it's taken me a long time to kind of build that up and make myself feel like I'm actually doing something of value that I can charge for. And then, my first big client totally turns around and says, you gave me nothing. I want all of it, all the money back. And it's like, if I hadn't been doing all this work, like the mystic path type thing, all this self-healing work, man, this would just devastate me. Like, I'd be so broken. But luckily I feel pretty good.
I think that's why we do. That's why, I say we, I'm not there yet, but why one does the work is, I remember listening to a podcast with a former yoga teacher as one of the co-hosts, and the other co-host said, yeah, but you don't need all that yoga stuff because you're really zen. And it's like, no, I'm really zen because I do all of that yoga stuff. Otherwise I'll be bouncing off the friggin' walls.
100%.
That's why I'm this person, because I need it. Absolutely.
Yeah, since the accident, I've fallen off my yoga routine because I can't move my body in the same way, and it just hurts. It just hurts, and it's taken a toll, both on my flexibility, but also on my mental health. Like they're all tied together. They all work as one. Since we're back on health, you mentioned the comments from your mom, and then you mentioned that you have work to do. When you want to hear it, I'll say it differently. I feel like I have found some secrets and answers to, I mean, weight loss, sure, but like obviously just general health. That, like I know that there's the statement or the thought process of like, oh, sure, that works for you, or that works for one person. Each person is different. I think that can be true with details, but generally, like we're all humans, and the body chemistry kind of works all the same. And I feel like I've unlocked some secrets that make like weight loss just simple and easy, and it like just happens without you having to work at it. And like I'm so excited to share these things with people when they want them, of course. I hinted at this, I think, last time we recorded, that I kind of wrote down a who, what, when, where, why, and how of eating, and that really covers a big scope of it. And maybe next time we record, or another time when you feel like you want to hear it, we could kind of go through that and break that down, because I feel like that's it. I feel like I really have something there that I actually really want to kind of put into, I don't know if about a book or something, but like I want to expand on it. I think it's actually kind of
sounds like you got a method.
Clever, yeah. It's a method that I think could kind of resonate with some people, and I'm excited to see how that expands out.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I think there might have to be a degree of or a period of forgiveness, I think, that I might have to go through.
I have an interesting thing I just heard about forgiveness from the book I was telling you about last time, Spirit Hacking by Shaman Durek. He had a whole like chapter section about forgiveness, and how you're gonna love this. It ties back to what we were talking before. Like forgiveness is the wrong. Forgiveness implies that you did something wrong, and actually, like because I read you the beginning of my my manifesto a few episodes ago, and I said there in the beginning, like I want to clear this space and allow you to forgive yourself for anything that's come before. And I've actually already changed it after reading this chapter to accept. I want you to accept yourself, because there's no forgiveness necessary. You just were. You just did. You chose those actions. Those were beautiful, perfect actions that got you to be where you are today, and where you are right now. There's no changing that. That's who you were always meant to be, and what you always could be, based on everything that came before you, all the inputs that you were given throughout your life. Oh my God. And now I'm remembering my my theory / thoughts on free will, and whether free will exists or not. Because if I was you, I would have had all of the interactions of your life that led me through your life. And so I would make all the decisions that you make. I wouldn't be any different. Like we follow patterns. We go based on our own choices. And even if we decide, like we stop and think, no, I'm going to do something different than what I would have normally done. That's still, you're doing that based on the fact that you read something about needing to do something different. Like it's still an input. It's still, you're still just following the path that you would always lead. And I just think that that's so funny when it comes to like free will. Like I do feel like we have free will, but at the same time, I think that it's not like I think it's fate or predestined, but I think everything has its course. It has everything that came before it defines how it's going to take its actions going forward.
Yeah, and for me, I think that's again why I go back to the embrace, because of the love that's in there, and how you can embrace someone or something imperfect. I'm very much into the noun of this all, very much the noun of it, the action, the doing of it, the impassivity of it. I was going to say I don't know when that work begins, but I think it sort of has to begin, like anything else, almost before you're ready. And it it has to begin with no promises, with no, because that's the thing that messed me up this year, is that I got so into evaluating. Like I had, I was looking at this. These books I had a couple of days ago when I was doing. I was in a journaling session, and I've got these lovely theme system journals, and they are. I mean, this one is completed, and every day there's stuff in there, but then the back pages, there's however many 15 pages in the back that are all to do items, things that you are supposed to, you choose what you want your daily habits to be. And we start to see that there is this drop off of the way that the circles become. They go from being fully coloured in to being half coloured in to being missing, and it goes on and it goes on, and through that, looking at that really brought on. I mean, it gets so sparse as we go into sort of March. I think it is. Oh, this is even just February, I think, and even worse. And it's a real indicator of, and then you see a sort of a recommitment or a changing of what the values are going to be or the goals are going to be, and it goes back to when I went to go and see my brother in late April, early May, whenever it was, because I just got myself into such a state. I was so disappointed by myself for not living up to the ideals or the things that I was setting out, all of these expectations, all of these shoulds, and I wasn't living up to them. And my brother was just like, why don't you just be? Like, you spend so much time trying to be better, or trying to do more, trying to fix this about yourself. Why don't you just be? Yeah, and it was what I needed at the time. And it was a big lesson for that sort of first part of the year, was to, I think that level of scrutiny, or that level of, I don't know, there's something there, because I believe in habits, and I believe in that kind of stuff. But there's, I think, something in, for me, maybe there is a disconnect, and there's a real sense of judgment that comes through when certain, things that you thought you wanted to do every day don't get done. And actually, I think that comes down to bad goal setting, and it comes down to setting habits and things that are not truly aligned with actually what you want. And a lot of that has come from one of the big themes that I've been playing with the last couple of days, is this realization that I've felt sort of like I'm not exactly drowning, but constantly at risk. So being at sea, not having my feet be able to touch the sand at the bottom of the, of the bed, the water bed, and also the water constantly being just a little bit not over my head, but enough where I can't get a good lungful of air. And so there's this constant feeling of having to sort of tread water to keep moving, having to look for little life rafts or and I sort of realized, as I was thinking about this and, wondering why I seem to have made so many short-term decisions, it's just the realization, when you're drowning, you're not scanning the horizon for opportunities. You're not looking around for going, God, that beachfront property, doesn't that look spectacular in the way the sun catches that? Wow, is that a south-facing garden? That looks amazing. No, what you're trying to do is you're trying to survive. You're trying to find what is the point of rescue? What can I do to rescue myself? You're not in a position to make these long-term, lovely decisions. And it's only recently that I think and this is the interesting thing, and I promise I will actually let you speak. How much of this is to do with mindset is I have this, for want of a better word, promise of something that will enable me to stand on the riverbed or on the seabed and actually stand a little taller and maybe then even be able to walk out of the sea. That hasn't arrived yet. And there's a chance that it may not arrive. There's a chance that it might arrive in 2025, and then there's also a chance that it may never arrive. This sort of, you might call it one of those like life rings or something. That's just enough to help me pull myself out of the water. But I am operating under the mindset that is already here, which shows you. And it's taken me a long time to really discover this. And we talked about 3 principles and mind awareness and mind, thought, and awareness, or whatever it is. It's taken me a while to sort of realize how much that is just a mindset shift. I have decided that this life jacket or life ring is here already, and I'm acting on the understanding that it's there. And everything, my whole thinking is shifting towards that now. What happens if it doesn't turn up? That's, whatever, but I'm not even really thinking about that because, it just shows you that when we talk about money or we talk about other things, and I've got friends who've really tried to hammer this home to me and it's been difficult to hear, but it is. And to anyone who is struggling, like, this doesn't help. And it's really made me angry when people say this stuff because it feels so glib when you feel like you really are struggling. When you are really struggling and someone says, effectively, it's all in the mind. It's like, fuck you. How dare you?
Yeah. I feel for you, man. I feel it so much. And I sense that. I see myself in you, and I see, like, because I've been there. I've had the same types of interactions where I felt, or I was struggling severely, and I was told it was in my head or a mindset or things like that. And yeah, man, I can really say as well, like, that just feels glib. It feels
condescending,
super condescending. And also, like, this, it makes you your enemy of yourself. Like, oh, I'm just doing it to myself. Like, then you have no one to turn to because you can't turn to the person who just told you it was in your head because they feel like the enemy. And you can't turn to yourself because you're being told that you're your own enemy. And simultaneously, I agree with it. It's actually true.
That's what's so fucking annoying.
It is. It really is.
I think the big thing for me that made it so hard to swallow is
because it's seawater.
Because it's seawater. Was I had, it's someone who's a perennial frenemy of the show. I love you so much, Anna. But one of I have really bristled with conversations I've had with her. She's like the godmother of this show in so many ways. And she would love all of this. She absolutely loves it. But the thing I struggled with is, and it's purely the way sometimes people communicate, is they say it's just this, and I think what they mean is this is get overable. Like, this is manageable. We can do this. What I hear is it's easy. Why aren't you doing it?
Oh, yeah, it's not that. No, it's not easy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like and to her it sort of is, because, and I tried to explain how I came about this, with last time we chatted, which was like, this is basically, this podcast is now my Anna support group.
I love it.
I love her so much, and she's so wise. But it's we hit upon these things. It's like, I could say, just play a C chord on the piano. The C chord's the easiest chord to play. It's the standard. It's the C chord. Just play a C chord. Yeah, but I don't know what a chord is, and I don't know what C is. What do you mean? Just play.
All the keys is black and white. Which one's C? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you know this stuff, and when you're practiced in it, it is easy. But you've got to remember, and you've got to have compassion. And again, I know she has this, but it's like, the thing in any of the work that I want to do is really help someone go, no, I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It might be simple, but it's not easy, because there is so much fighting you, and so much in your way, and so much that is real. I'm not going to say it appears real, because again, that doesn't help, because it's real for you, properly, and it's I mean, I can't remember if it probably was earlier this year. I've brought myself to tears. Even just this year, having to, and it actually wasn't until I had this real moment where I brought myself to tears of going, I refuse to keep taking the blame for money being hard. I refuse to keep doing that. I refute this story, because it's hard for lots of people, and I'm doing my best, because I carried such a negative story about my own relationship with money, like I'm reckless or whatever. Because, I do have an attitude with money where you sort of can't take it with you, and I would rather experience good things than save up for some, life that may or may never happen, because whatever, hit by a bus, whatever. But that doesn't mean I'm reckless. But it also means that sometimes you have to confront occasional choices that you make or whatever. And it was this year I'd really had that thing. I was like, no, I refuse to keep having this narrative, because the fact is, this, that, and the other, everything is suddenly just more expensive, and you're having to deal with that. You're in debt because of trying to pull your business out, and trying to make something of yourself, or all these things. I refuse to keep beating myself up about this. You don't get to do this anymore, bank balance. And I had to bring myself to a real stark moment of that, because there have been moments where I've been so frightened at night, like frightened, not worried, frightened about what's going to happen. And once you sort of get to a point, you realize, like, there is no wolf at the, and I know I'm belaboring this point about money, but like, there is no wolf at the door that's going to come scratching at you one day after you've missed a payment. There are realities in place. There are all sorts of mitigations. There are also, there are conversations you can have. There are so many things that, again, prove that it is so much about the story and so much about the mindset, but it doesn't stop it being real as fuck, So, and I always want to, recognize.
Yeah, absolutely. I had one little thing I wanted to say in regards to your struggling in the ocean analogy. And this might be semantics, and you can absolutely tell me to F off. But since we've been talking about embracing versus accepting, when I was envisioning you struggling in the ocean, I thought to myself, okay, what does it look like if Mark is embracing this, where he's like trying to hug the ocean or grasping at the life preserver that isn't there and just like frantically paddling, trying to embrace it. And what's it look like if he accepts it? He he's floating on his back, going with the waves. He's able to breathe and just zen and sitting on top and no longer trying to get a certain achievement of either standing on the sand underneath the waves or getting that life preserver that isn't coming, and just being like, okay, I'm in the ocean. Okay, I'm gonna tread water. We'll just do this for a while, or we'll, accept the situation and realize what needs to be done.
I think, in a sense, that's probably what happened. And I think that's the moment I'm describing where I sort of brought myself to tears, because what I was not confronting, but bringing into view was, this is the situation, and what's making you so upset is struggling against that, trying to justify your position, trying to make it something that you can control. And yes, you can control. Like, it's one of the things I realized. Like, certainly at the time, is I can control how much I get paid. I can't, yes, I can control how many hours I work, but I can't just make things appear. There are realities, and it's one of those things. Realize it's not really like you don't earn enough. That's not really the problem. The problem is more just there are outgoings and whatever. And it was, I think it was an accepting of that situation, and also reminding myself it's not your fault. And that was a fairly big moment of just going, dude, it's not your fault. You're not bad, you're not naughty. You haven't. And that was such a thing, such a voice of judgment.
Yeah, you're actually intrinsically good.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there, but yeah, at least not actively bad. Yeah. That's episode 8. And I think once I got to that point, it was easier then to maybe stand a little bit taller and actually go, like when the next wave hits you, to go, all right, bring it on. Like, I refuse to be buffeted because this shall not pass. Because, yeah, the ocean is not my fault.
No, not at all. Nor being in the ocean. We're all in the ocean.
No.
I love you, Mark.
I love you, Brendan.
Oh, and as always, correct me if I'm wrong. I'd sniff glitter if it would make me sick. That's not right.
I bought some glitter, and I have a tiny pot of it at home.
A tiny pot of glitter.
Yeah.
What's it for?
It's for my beard at Christmas.
Oh, snap. That's amazing. I love it.
I've just bought a Christmas jumper. And I thought I'll go all in glittered.
That's amazing.
Glitterated. I had to do some emergency Christmas buying because presents didn't arrive in time, look like they're not going to arrive in time. So it's no. But I think I've saved Christmas. I think it's going to be fine.
That's good. Emergency.
How are you, my dude?
Good. Yeah, I've got my. I was planning on no presents for anybody because of all the just life happening at me. And then yesterday I just decided, nope, I'm going to buy a bunch of things.